Hey everybody, I'm Cheyenne Adamson and welcome back to the Phonics channel. This is where teachers, homeschoolers, and educators everywhere come for valuable information and insights. And today's video is going to be about how to start a homeschooling co-op. And this is probably going to be very interesting and beneficial to everybody who wants to homeschool, but they just don't quite have the time to teach every single subject. And so homeschool co-op is really great for delegating certain duties to parents or teachers who have the expertise and the knowledge that you just might not have. So let's just get right into it. Starting a homeschooling co-op can be extremely rewarding. And we explained how co-ops can help your kids form friendships in an earlier video, but it can be helpful in all sorts of ways. A co-op can give your kids access to classes that they normally wouldn't be able to take, and it can provide a much-needed companionship for parents. Still, it's an intimidating prospect. Homeschooling is hard enough, and setting up a homeschool co-op almost sounds like school administration. In this post, we'll give you a simple test you can use to determine whether a hypothetical co-op has the legs to last. So I'm going to give you guys a great example of what a small hometown co-op will kind of look like. Students, they should take classes on a small campus that is co-op owned, and they can use school materials at home, or they could take online classes, or any combination of those three. Some of the classes should be pretty standard, English and civics for example, but the co-op should also take advantage of its members' specific knowledge to offer classes in areas like Indian poetry and constitutional law. In all, there's always going to be people who have a healthy amount of distrust for a co-op, because it might seem suspiciously like school. Still in all, there's going to be some people who have a healthy amount of distrust about a co-op, because it suspiciously seems like school. And they'll want something a little less formal, and they'll want to take a little bit more control as well. And that's kind of the problem you're often up against when you try to organize a homeschooling co-op. Some parents might want the school's perspective to be Christian, and others might want it to be secular, and so on and so forth. And there's some pretty good discussion of how to balance a Christian perspective with freedom of inquiry in this comment thread on the Pioneer Woman, for those who are interested. We'll link below in the description below so you guys can check that forum out. But that is kind of good food for thought, actually, Brandon. How would a person go about balancing those particular aesthetics of a religious-based homeschooling co-op versus a secular one? I do think that it is entirely possible to have a good, solid homeschooling co-op, even if you have some sort of religious bent with maybe the people who are the main arbiters, so to speak, of the homeschooling co-op. If they have some sort of a Christianity or Judaic or Catholicism, it shouldn't turn you away. Exactly. Especially if you're more of a secular homeschooling parent. I don't think it's a make or break it kind of thing. And I think a great thing that you could do as a parent who's maybe checking out some of these homeschooling co-ops, I mean, obviously you guys have probably already thought of this, but certainly vet the homeschooling co-op. Go in there, meet the parents, meet the people who are running it. You just go in there and you audit the classes, and that's exactly what you can do. And then you can just make sure that, okay, well, these people are preaching a lot of religion, or they're not, or and religion may not even have anything to do with it. You just want to go in there and audit regardless of if it's a homeschool, if it's a religious bent or if it's a secular bent. You still want to go in there and audit the classes. And I'm sure probably every single parent that is watching this and is probably very well aware of that. And I mean, stranger danger and all those things these days, like people are probably pretty on that. But disclaimer, let's just add that into the video. Go ahead and go audit the classes before you stick your kids in there. If you do have substantial disagreements on any of these issues, it's going to be hard for that co-op to last, at least for very long. So hopefully you guys can work those issues out and you can take full advantage of those classes in a homeschooling co-op. There's an excellent in-depth article on the nitty-gritty of starting a co-op on the blog called The Homeschool Mom. And we'll link to it in the description below so you guys can go check that out. In the meantime, we're going to give you some broad strokes of how to actually start this bad boy. And before you start anything, you need to make sure that you and everyone else involved in the co-op agree on two big issues. And you might be wondering, what are these two big issues? What could they possibly be? The tantalization is just excellent, isn't it? You're just waiting. Most of the disagreements in the new co-ops seem to break down into two categories: educational style and formality. In other words, what are you going to teach and how are you going to teach it? Educational style is self-explanatory. You need to decide on the content of the pedagogy. The more detail you can talk about in this, the better. And it might be tempting to say that teaching is going to be eclectic and leave it at that. But it'll head off problems down to the line if you can sit down with all the parents before teaching starts and nail things down. Kind of like we talked about earlier, vetting classes, auditing, all that good stuff. Will there be any religious content at the school level, or are you leaving that to each family? Will anybody be using methods like Waldorf or Montessori or Spalding and so on and so forth? And if so, is that okay with all the parents involved? This is also a great time to nail down how you'll introduce philosophy to the curriculum, something that we highly recommend. I recommend that all the time on this channel, Brandon. Philosophy for Kids, P for C, it's excellent stuff. Now, formality is a bit trickier. There's often a large disconnect between parents on this particular issue. Everyone assumes that they'll all want the same thing, but in fact, someone would think that the co-op is an enrichment opportunity. That is, it can offer socialization as well as instructions in things like art and languages that they might not be able to offer at home, while others think of it as a main part of their homeschooling. So I guess that's where you guys have to get down to the nitty-gritty details and figure out what all will be covered and what won't be. Now, if you guys settle both of those conflicts, you'll be left with a much better idea of what kind of program, for the lack of a better word, that your co-op is. Now we know it's a monthly meeting, strictly for enrichment, where students can share what they've worked on in the last month. Each of those programs might be called a homeschooling co-op on paper, but they're vastly different in practice. That's the kind of variance that you'll have to compensate for when you organize a co-op. And beyond this, the process is probably not going to be as difficult as you think. One of the many things homeschooling has on conventional school is a total lack of red tape, which is what can make a conventional school administration such a nightmare, which we've talked about in our previous videos ad nauseum. Subtract all of that bureaucracy and solve any disagreements around formality and educational style, and you'll be left with the core of what a great homeschooling co-op is about. Parents and students exercising their individual liberty and gaining some knowledge on the side. And that's an important thing to keep in mind when you're thinking about homeschooling in any form. You're exercising a fundamental right in a uniquely American way. Homeschooling is an exercise of individual liberty, and co-ops are a part of that tradition that comes down to us from Locke and Jefferson. If debates about what to teach in your co-op are getting particularly onerous, and you need to be motivated, think about that. And good luck. So, that's it. That's it for today's video, you guys. Thank you very much for watching. Go ahead, if you're new here, go ahead and subscribe, hit the bell button, and leave a comment in the section below. And if you have anything to add to the video, or if you think there's anything that I missed in this video, love to start a discussion with you as always. And until next time, my fellow educators, be well and stay classy.
That wasn't far enough.
It wasn't?
No. Do it again.
I got a table right here, so I'll just... Yeah! I can speak English good, you guys. Trust me. I'm here to teach your kids.